Welcome to the Daily History Podcast, where every day we dust off the pages of time to bring you the stories that shaped our world. Today, we journey back to the land of the pharaohs to explore the pivotal roles and status of women in ancient Egypt. Stay tuned as we unveil the lives of powerful queens, influential priestesses, and remarkable female artisans who carved their legacies into history. Journey with us as we traverse the sands of time to the ancient civilization of Egypt, a land cradled by the fertile banks of the Nile River. This storied region, which thrived for over 3 millennia, was a beacon of human achievement, celebrated for its towering pyramids, sophisticated art, and enigmatic hieroglyphics. Within the framework of its enduring legacy, a complex social hierarchy took root. At the apex sat the pharaoh, often viewed as a living god, charged with maintaining order and prosperity. Beneath the pharaoh was a class of high officials, priests and nobles, who levied taxes and governed the provinces. Craftsmen, scribes, and soldiers provided their specialized skills, while the majority of the populace, composed of farmers and laborers, toiled to sustain the economy and uphold the grandeur of their civilization. Within this intricate framework, women of ancient Egypt navigated a landscape of roles and possibilities unique for their time. Though a patriarchal society, the cultural fabric of ancient Egypt afforded women a degree of respect and rights that differentiated them from their contemporaries. They could possess and bequeath property, and some even ascended to roles of considerable power, as evidenced by the reigns of influential queens throughout Egypt's dynastic period. The common view of gender in ancient Egypt was not one of strict inequality, but rather of complementary functions. Women, revered as the givers of life and associated with the divine, influenced both domestic spheres and the temples that lined the Nile. Their identities were multifaceted, extending beyond the confines of their homes, and they partook in their society's spiritual and, at times, even political realms. As we delve further into this episode, keep these images of ancient Egypt's grandeur, its social order, and the nuanced roles of women in mind. They serve as the backdrop against which we'll explore the intricate tapestry of women's lives, from the regal queens to the hardworking artisans who all contributed to the rich narrative of ancient Egypt. Within the closely knit webs of ancient Egyptian families, women were far more than just silent figures in the backdrop. They were integral to the very fabric of domestic life. Their role, often anchored in nurturing and management, extended from the nurturing of children to the administration of the household. Mothers, wives, and daughters were expected to maintain the home, a task that required both skill and dedication. It was a common sight in households of all social tiers to see women grinding grain, weaving textiles, and preserving food for their families. Pivoting from the hearth to the temple, women's religious significance was diverse, transcending their status in society. At the base level, they participated in domestic rituals and temple festivals, often as musicians or dancers. The sacred, however, was not relegated solely to the confines of the temple. It spilled into the home, where women upheld religious customs and ensured that the gods remained favorably disposed towards their families. But the influence of women in this spiritual sphere was not uniform. Some rose to exceptional heights, revered as priestesses, and some, such as the god's wife of Amun, held influential positions in Thebes, wielding power that far surpassed their temple duties. From the commoner to the divine, women were intertwined with religion in unique and varying capacities. Goddesses were worshipped fervently, with deities such as Isis embodying the idealized roles of women as mothers and wives, and serving as protectors in life and the afterlife. These goddesses were not simply idols, they were living testaments to the roles and reverence of women in society. Priestesses could command great respect and assets, and though their lives were a stark contrast to those of ordinary women, they all shared the common thread of being indispensable constituents of both their households and the religious world. It is this interweaving of the daily and the divine, the ordinary and the exceptional, that showcases Egyptian women's remarkable ability to navigate and shape their societal roles. From an ordinary wife responsibly managing her household to the high priestess performing critical religious functions, women in ancient Egypt demonstrated their dynamic and indispensable involvement in both family and religion. By embodying both nurturing and authoritative figures, they not only sustained the cultural and communal ethos, but also constructed legacies that would resonate through the millennia. Venturing into the realm of political power within ancient Egypt, it becomes evident that women were not merely sidelined ornaments of the royal courts. Some commanded formidable influence and authority. Queens, such as Nefertiti, who reigned alongside Pharaoh Akhenaten during the 14th century BCE, were pivotal figures in the political sphere. Nefertiti was known for her prominence and might, at times depicted on equal footing with the king, a testament to her esteemed position in the governance of ancient Egypt. Another towering female figure in politics was the legendary Cleopatra VII, who ascended the Egyptian throne in the late 1st century BCE. Cleopatra's shrewd political maneuvering and strategic alliances with Roman powers like Julius Caesar and Mark Antony exemplify how some women defied the era's gender constraints to shape not only Egyptian but also Mediterranean geopolitics. Her reign marked the end of the pharaonic period, and her legacy persists as a symbol of female political prowess. Turning our attention to the economic domain, women in ancient Egypt were active participants in commerce and property management, with legal rights that granted them a degree of economic freedom rather uncommon in the ancient world. They could own land, manage businesses, and were involved in trade. For instance, texts and records reveal that women from various social strata owned vineyards, sold goods, and facilitated trade deals, engaging with the market economy in ways that sometimes transcended the expected gender roles prescribed by society. Yet, while women enjoyed these rights, their engagement in economic activities often still operated within the frameworks of their societal roles. High-status women, such as those from royal or noble families, could leverage their positions to exert greater economic control and influence, while women of lower classes, although they had economic rights, had to navigate within the constraints of their social standing. The duality of empowerment and limitation offers a nuanced view into how gender norms were both challenged and reaffirmed through the economic actions of women in ancient Egypt. In summation, the political and economic realms of ancient Egypt were spaces where influential women made their mark. Whether as rulers shaping the destinies of nations or as savvy economic agents conducting business, women utilized the avenues available to them to exert influence, challenge norms, and secure a place within the annals of history, a narrative that underscores the intricate tapestry of gender roles in antiquity. Venturing into the legal landscape of ancient Egypt reveals a society where women's rights were notably advanced for their time. Women in this era were granted the ability to own and manage property independently from their male relatives. This privilege extended to various types of assets, from land to portable goods, allowing women a form of economic freedom that was far from universal in the ancient world. Their autonomy also spilled over into business dealings. Women could enter into contracts in their own name, sell goods and lands, and were even involved in the lending of money, practices that were documented on papyrus records from that period. Moreover, they were entitled to keep their own property after marriage, a convention that underscored their distinct legal identity separate from that of their husbands. In the domain of legal affairs, women's roles were not confined to passive participation. Although men usually represented families in court, women were not excluded from legal processes. They could act as plaintiffs or defendants, appear in front of judges, and their testimonies held weight in courts of law. Ancient Egyptian society recognized women's voices in both civil and criminal cases, indicative of a comprehensive system that acknowledged women as effective legal actors. Protection of women's legal rights was not only theoretical, but was translated into various safeguards. Equal inheritance laws ensured that daughters received the same portion of their parental assets as their brothers. Additionally, prenuptial agreements were common practice, assuring that the assets and wealth a woman brought into a marriage would remain hers in the event of her husband's death or a divorce. These legal instruments underpinned the scope of women's autonomy and offered them a layer of security in their societal roles. This exploration of legal rights showcases ancient Egyptian women as holders of rights and bearers of responsibilities. The progressive nature of their legal status builds an image of a civilization ahead of its time, painting a vivid picture of women not only as caretakers and homemakers, but also as active shapers of their own economic and legal destinies. As we continue to explore the rich tapestry of ancient Egypt, it is essential to remember the influential women who made their mark on history. Some of the most prominent figures of this era were the queens, women of royal blood who commanded respect and wielded considerable power. Among them, Queen Hatshepsut stands tall, known for her incredible reign during the 18th dynasty, around 1478 BC. She was a pharaoh in her own right, famous for expanding Egyptian trade and commissioning monumental architecture like the majestic temple at Deir el-Bahri. Another figure that demands attention is the great royal wife of Akhenaten, Queen Nefertiti. Her elegance and the mysterious nature of her disappearance from historical records have captivated the imagination of many. Not merely a consort, Nefertiti played a significant role in religious reforms and is often depicted in a position of power equal to her husband in art from Amarna. But queens weren't the only women of stature. Priestesses were also venerated in ancient Egyptian society. The goddess Isis, in particular, had a dedicated following, with priestesses presiding over her temples and rituals. These spiritual leaders were seen as intermediaries between the divine and the people, and their influence extended well beyond the sanctum of the temples. Moving on to the artistic realm, we find that female artisans have left behind a legacy equally impressive. Though not as widely documented, their contributions to Egyptian artistry are undeniable. One can appreciate the intricate jewelry, textiles, and pottery found in burial sites, pieces believed to be crafted by skilled female hands, reflecting both artistry and religious significance. These artifacts not only add to our understanding of ancient Egyptian culture, but also highlight the role women played in creating objects of beauty and function. It is important to celebrate the lesser-known women whose persistence and skill have allowed their names to echo through the ages. Consider the contributions of Merit Ptah, who lived around 2700 BC and is hailed as the first woman known by name in the history of the field of medicine. There's also Peseshet, who is recognized from the 4th dynasty as possibly the earliest known female physician. These women pushed the boundaries of what was expected in a male-dominated field, their achievements laying the groundwork for future generations. As we draw this section to a close, let's appreciate the profound impact these notable women had on their society and how they continue to inspire us across millennia. Their stories of power, devotion, creativity, and intellect serve as testament to the dynamic roles women have played throughout history. Through their remarkable lives, we gain insight into the complex fabric of ancient Egypt and the enduring legacy that transcends time, reminding us of the vital role women have always played in shaping civilizations. In the warm embrace of the Egyptian sun, where the Nile blesses the land with its nurturing flood, gender roles were as intertwined with daily life as the papyrus reeds were with the riverbanks. Marriage in ancient Egypt was not merely a union of two hearts, but a functional element of societal structure. Women often married young, typically in their early teens, and their roles as wives were viewed through the pragmatic lens of managing households and bearing children. An Egyptian woman's identity was closely linked to her status as a mother, with childbirth being a significant event, surrounded by rituals and the invocation of deities like Taweret, the goddess of fertility and childbirth, to ensure a safe delivery. Domestic life for most Egyptian women was a realm they ruled over with efficiency and skill. They were the primary caretakers of the home, responsible for food preparation, weaving textiles, and nurturing the next generation. Within their homes, women could exert a level of autonomy and take charge of familial affairs, ensuring their households ran smoothly. This central role in the domestic sphere provided women with an opportunity to influence family decisions and contribute to the well-being of their loved ones. Yet, it was within these very walls that their world was often confined, as their activities rarely extended far beyond the threshold of their abodes. Education for women in ancient Egypt was not wholly absent, yet it was a privilege accessible to only a select few. The daughters of nobility and elite families might learn to read and write, gaining a rare opportunity to peruse the scrolls that contained the wisdom of the ancients. Scribal schools, however, were typically reserved for boys who were being groomed for administrative positions. But let us not forget the exceptional women like Hatshepsut, who flourished around 2400 BCE and held the title of overseer of female physicians. Women like her demonstrated that with education and grit, the ceilings of expectation could be vaulted. Nonetheless, for the vast majority of Egyptian women, formal education remained an untraveled path, their teachings rooted in oral tradition and the hands-on experience of daily tasks. While gender roles carved deep grooves into the fabric of ancient Egyptian society, they also provided the outlines within which women could navigate their lives. Despite the restrictions, women found ways to exert power and express their identities, their stories woven silently but persistently through the annals of history. Whether within the confines of home and tradition or through the rare breakthroughs into education and more public roles, women of ancient Egypt lived lives rich in duty, influence, and the unending pursuit of balance between what was expected of them and what they aspired to achieve. Reflecting upon the enduring impact that ancient Egyptian women have had on later periods of history unveils the remarkable ways in which these figures have influenced contemporary thought on gender and society. The legacies of powerful queens, such as Hatshepsut and Cleopatra, continue to resonate, serving as exemplars of leadership and agency in a male-dominated world. In considering how modern perspectives on gender can be informed by these women of antiquity, we find rich examples of autonomy and economic independence. Ancient Egyptian women were remarkably ahead of their time, with rights to property ownership, business dealings, and legal self-representation. Their roles convey a narrative of female empowerment that challenges many preconceived notions about the status of women in the ancient world. The influence of ancient gender roles on current viewpoints and discourse cannot be understated. The duality seen in ancient Egypt, where on one hand women held significant responsibility and status, while on the other societal norms still constrained them, mirrors the ongoing conversation about gender equality today. The nuances of ancient Egyptian society's approach towards gender roles present a complex picture that provides a context for current debates on the balance between tradition and progress. Such reflections help us appreciate the intricate tapestry of human history and the place of women within it. By examining the past, we glean insights into the present and inspire a more equitable future. The progressive aspects of ancient Egyptian society provide a framework to evaluate and aspire to a world where gender does not define one's ability to contribute to the development and richness of civilization. As we ponder on these ancient influences, we are compelled to consider how the legacy of these women not only sheds light on the past, but also illuminates potential paths forward. Their stories are not just historical accounts. They are chapters of human empowerment and the unyielding quest for equality. These ancient female figures set a precedent that continues to empower and challenge us to this day. As we draw the threads of our narrative closer, let's take a moment to reflect upon the pivotal roles of women in the ancient sands of Egypt. Throughout this episode, we've journeyed across various landscapes of Egyptian society, unearthing the multifaceted lives of women who thrived within a civilization known for its grandeur and complexity. We began by unraveling the broad strokes of historical context, understanding how the Nile's rhythm set the tempo for a society deeply rooted in family, religion, and governance. Looking back, the political acumen of queens such as Nefertiti and Cleopatra stirs within us a sense of awe for the authority women could wield. Their legacies, alongside other women who shaped the economy through trade and land ownership, remind us of the intricate balance between traditional roles and the exceptional influence some were able to command. Our explorations have illuminated the legal landscape where women of ancient Egypt navigated with a remarkable degree of autonomy, owning property, participating in commerce, and securing their rights through robust legal precedents. We've also paid homage to the iconic figures, the priestesses and artisans whose names persist through the millennia, etching their stories into the annals of history. Their presence in the tapestry of Egyptian society speaks volumes about the recognition and celebration of female achievements. Beyond the public sphere, we examine the intimate spaces of domestic life, considering the societal norms that cocooned marriage and motherhood, and the spaces of learning and advancement that gradually shaped the identity of women. This compelling saga of ancient Egyptian women sheds light on the human journey at large, on how we, as a civilization, have evolved in our understanding and appreciation of gender roles. It beckons us to ask ourselves, how much have we changed and what remains steadfast from those ancient times to our own? In closing, let us dwell upon the stories shared today, the knowledge gleaned about women whose influence on history extends beyond the architecture of pyramids and the whispers of desert winds. May their wisdom and fortitude inspire us to recognize the enduring role women play in the continuity of history and the shaping of societies. As we part ways in this episode, I invite you to hold these reflections close and to join us in a conversation that spans not just episodes, but generations. Thank you for joining us on today's excursion into the past. If you've enjoyed this journey through the lives of ancient Egyptian women, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, share your thoughts in the comments below, and suggest topics for future episodes. The suggestion with the most likes will catch our eye for an upcoming episode. Your engagement fuels our quest for history. Until next time, keep the past alive and let history illuminate your path.